and welcome to My Career in Data, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders and experts how they have built their careers. I'm your host, Shannon Kemp, and today we're talking to Malcolm Hawker from Profisee.
With a robust catalog of courses offered on demand and industry-leading live online sessions throughout the year, the DATAVERSITY Training Center is your launchpad for career success. Browse the complete catalog at training.dataversity.net and use code DVTalks for 20% off your purchase.
Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at DATAVERSITY, and this is My Career in Data, a DATAVERSITY Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there, and to talk with people who can make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Today, we are joined by Malcolm Hawker, Chief Data Officer from Profisee. And normally, this is where a podcast host would read a short bio of the guest, but in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Malcolm, hello and welcome.
Hello, Shannon. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited for you to be here. We were just talking about, I can't believe it's taken this long to get together and have you on the podcast. I'm so grateful that you've taken the time. We, of course, know each other from having seen each other at a lot of our events. You're often a speaker at DATAVERSITY events, so always grateful for you to join us.
Well, you guys have been, you, Tony, the entire team have been so wonderful to me over the years. Thank you. I'm thrilled to attend any DATAVERSITY event. I'm thrilled to support you guys, everything that you wanted to do. And when you reached out and said, hey, let's do a podcast, I'm like, yes. Especially because it's about my favorite topic. Just kidding. I'm not that egocentric. I'm a little egocentric, but not that much. But no, I'm thrilled to be here. Let's have some fun.
Thanks, Malcolm, so much. Thank you. And so tell me, okay, so let's get into it. So you are the Chief Data Officer at Profisee. And so for those who may not know, what type of business is Profisee?
Profisee is a software company. We make MDM, Master Data Management Software. We think we make the best solution in the market. That's for you to judge. I believe it's an amazing product, and we help companies solve the data silo problem. MDM is all about busting data silos. You've got customer data in one place, another place, and in the third place. And you don't really know if John Smith, Jonathan Smith, or JM Smith are one people or three people, one person or three people. That's the core problem that MDM solves, and Profisee does exceptionally well.
I love it. Are you seeing an uptick in MDM needs with the onslaught of AI?
We are, but the needs there are a little nuancy. There's two forms of AI. There's the AI that we've always been doing, and MDM has always played a critical role in machine learning, natural language processing, the kind of AI classic, right? MDM has always played a role in that, and certainly companies are continuing to invest in those, in predictive analytics, right? Building forecasts, building next best action type models. That's always been a thing, continue to be a thing. MDM has played a critical role in that. Now we're talking about Gen AI and the role of structured data in Gen AI, all structured data, whether that is master data, whether that's data sitting in a data quality hub, whether that's data sitting in an Excel spreadsheet. The connection between structured data and Gen AI is there, but there is some work that companies have to do in order to make the jump from structured data to what Gen AI really wants, which is unstructured data, which is narratives, which is stories, which is long form prompts. So most certainly we're seeing an uptick there, but companies are still getting to terms, getting around the idea of what is needed to make the jump and leveraging all of that unstructured data, including master data, when it comes to using Gen AI solutions.
Very, very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about you and your job role as the Chief Data Officer. What is it that you do?
I've got an amazing job. I think I've got the best job in the world. My title is CDO, but I'm what is known by other roles as a field CDO. I'm externally facing. So most of the time, I'm interacting with people in the general population and the general public through my role as kind of spokesperson for Profisee, is the lack of a better word. I guess you could call it more of an evangelist. role, but I'm also in the field supporting our clients, our potential clients, people that want guidance from a best practice perspective, who want thought leadership, who want advisory around the best ways to do MDM, the best ways to do data governance, things to avoid, what does it mean to stand up a governance function, and on and on. So my job is to impart the knowledge that I've built over 30 years of data and analytics and share that with everybody through LinkedIn, through my podcast, CDO Matters, through white papers, through blogs, through everything. Just share what I know and be a trusted advisor in the industry around all things data and analytics.
And you certainly are a trusted advisor. And I know that you recently came out with a book.
I did. I'm spent the better part of a year writing a book, and it really came as a result of my experience as an analyst with a firm known as Gartner, where I was writing quadrants of magic and cycles of hype, and talking day in, day out with CDOs and CIOs and VPs of data and analytics. Gartner is based on this thing called inquiries, where when you subscribe to Gartner, you get a chance to talk to analysts like me. I had 1,500 conversations with probably closer to 2,000 people, because it was typically a many-to-one situation where I was talking to many data leaders at a single time. But I had 1,500 of those conversations where I was hearing what was working and what wasn't working. And I really wanted to kind of bundle up all of my experiences from those conversations with data leaders and share them in a book. The book isn't necessarily about what you think it might be after 1,500 conversations. It's not about kind of MDM or data quality or data governance best practices per se. It's about the commonalities that I witnessed and that I experienced in those conversations around the kind of the personality and behavioral traits of CDOs that were extremely successful and CDOs that were struggling. Because the CDOs that were struggling the most all had some very consistent personality traits, some very consistent behaviors that they were bringing to the table day in and day out. I articulated this through my book around the idea of what is known as a mindset. Successful CDOs were embracing what is known as a growth mindset. Focus on learning and development, a focus on innovation, a focus on collaboration, the things that we know quantitatively, we know are excellent for high-performing organizations. Other CDOs were embracing more of what is known as a fixed mindset, which is, we've tried that before, it doesn't work. We're going to stick with the status quo. A real rigid alignment to kind of the things that we've always done because that's how we do them. That is what a fixed mindset embraces. And then CDOs that were struggling the most kind of fell on that side of the equation. And I wanted to share that in my book. I wanted to share, hey, this isn't necessarily about technology. It's not even necessarily about processes. It's not necessarily about best practices, because we know these things. Your biggest key to success as a data leader is about the mindset you bring to the table every day you come through the door. How do you think about your role? How do you think about your data? And how do you think about your customers is the most impactful thing for you as a data leader day in and day out.
Very interesting. That's a lot of conversations. And we'll get more into your role at Gartner too. But what's the name of your book?
It is the Data Hero Playbook.
I love it. It's such a great title. Yeah. So and Malcolm, when you're talking to your customers out in the field, how does that play out, and what's the most common thing, issue that your customers are looking to solve?
Yeah.
And the advice that you're giving them?
Well, without a doubt, bar none. This is what I heard when I was a Gartner analyst, and this is what I still hear to this day, and I hear it every day on LinkedIn, multiple times. Without a doubt, the biggest challenge that people who are embarking on MDM or embarking on data quality, embarking on data governance, any of the data management capacities here, any of the data management disciplines, the biggest roadblock that I see over and over and over again is the failure to connect those efforts, data quality, data governance, MDM, with tangible business outcomes, right? And those are one of three things: more revenue, less costs, less risk. That's it, right? Making a tangible, quantifiable, provable, verifiable connection between efforts and data, governance, management, MDM, reference data management, I don't care, that stuff, and more money. That's the biggest challenge, right? Most we know from the data that I generated when we were at Gartner, that most do not make that connection. We had a stat in 2020 that said most people, 90% of people embarking on MDM don't quantify business benefits, which is a real challenge, Shannon, from a number of different reasons. We could spend the next hour talking about those. But to me, and I touch on this in my book, one of the biggest challenges I see is one of integrity. We're the ones that are saying be data driven, right? Be data driven, but we have no data on the value of data. We're basically asking our business partners to follow our intuition, right? Like we can't actually prove the business benefit. And we're asking them, hey, I need you to come along on this MDM journey with us. I need you to come along on this data stewardship thing with us. I need you to come to the data governance committee meetings. And then if our business partners ask, oh, okay, well, what's the business benefit of that? The answer is, well, you're just going to have to trust me. It's the exact opposite of being data driven, and we do it every day.
Very, very true. We hear and see very similar, experiences from and feedback from our community. Malcolm, let's talk a bit about how you got 30 years of experience in this space. So tell me, is this what you wanted to be when you grew up? Like when you were 6 years old, did you think to yourself, I'm going to be a chief officer at an MDM company?
No, when I was 6 years old, I was hoping that I'd get paid to build Lego for the rest of my life. That's what I was hoping when I was 6 years old, that I could just keep building my Lego, and that's all I would ever do. That was my favorite toy. You talk to my mother, like she'd have to rip me away from my Lego. I loved Lego. But even as I started to progress out of university, that's what we call it in Canada, university, not college. Progressed out of university, got a 4-year degree in business, which was great. Went to work in a commercial real estate company selling like commercial real estate. I sucked. It was horrible. I was horrible at that. Decided to go back to grad school, and I did a few years later. Coming out of grad school, I convinced myself that I wanted to be the next Richard Branson, that I was going to run a record company. That was my thing. I was going to run and start my own record company, and that was going to be it. And to make a long story very short, I didn't end up becoming Richard Branson, as you can clearly see. And I didn't go into the entertainment industry. I didn't go into media. But I kind of did go into media. As it turns out, coming out of graduate school, I needed to find a job. And I needed to find a job right away, because as a foreign national in the United States, you get 1 year. It's called OPT, Optional Practical Training, OTP, Optional Practical Training, where you get a year to go get hired by somebody with the goal, hopefully, of getting a work visa so you can stay in the country, which is what's my situation. I touch on this, actually, the story in my book. And the job that I got after sending 400 resumes for like real jobs, right? I had a master's degree in communications. So I was studying this thing called the World Wide Web. I knew, and this is in 1994, 1995, and I knew that this was going to be big. I knew it was going to be big. I knew it was going to be transformational. But I convinced myself that I needed to learn about the World Wide Web because I was going to be Richard Branson. And there was this thing called Napster that was like disrupting the music industry, where people were using this software to share copyrighted materials together. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool, really disruptive. I want copyright owners to get paid because I'm going to run a record company. I better figure this thing out, which is the internet. And in 1995, in my University of Florida, they didn't really in graduate school, they didn't know where to stick me. So they stuck me in radio and television, because like I was this weirdo studying the World Wide Web. And they put me in the communications school. So I ended up graduating with a master's in communication, which, I mean, okay, whatever, great. I got a master's. And I ended up sending a lot of resumes to phone companies, a few media companies, a few different others, because I was like, I got a year or they're going to kick me out of the country. The job I got was as a call center rep for this little internet startup called America Online in 1995. Okay, so AOL, yes, AOL.
Yeah.
The kind of consumerization of the internet at the time. And I started with AOL in 1995, answering phone calls, doing tech support for like modem-based connectivity, like 14.4K baud modems connecting to what was then the internet And that was my entryway into tech. As a call center rep.
You hear the dial-up now. Yeah.
Yeah. As a call center rep making $7.50 an hour. I'm not joking. That's how much I made. When I told my father, he practically coughed up a lung because he had funded my graduate school, and he was able to do the math pretty quickly. Okay, at $7.50 an hour, is this kid ever going to pay me back for the money that I gave him to move from Canada to Florida to go to graduate school? What sort of blunder have I made? But as it turns out, AOL quickly moved me out of the call center, moved me to their headquarters in Washington, D.C., where I was based for 10 years. I started doing product management, but the products that I was managing were back office systems, including reporting-based systems. So I was given, AOL had a very kind of forward-leaning perspective on their internal systems that they were building, internal tools, internal software, their ERP systems, their advertising management systems, their reporting-based systems, where they assigned product managers. And I became a product manager and spent my first 10 years deeply enmeshed in product management, building, like the art of building great software to solve customer problems. Some of the software that I supported, a big chunk of it was actually data and analytics. It was all of the systems that were used to track advertising around the AOL network. A big part of that was, of course, reporting. Fast forward a little bit, I end up kind of becoming a chief product officer. My first job out of AOL, I got recruited to move down to Austin, Texas, to go to work for this company called Hoovers, which was a subsidiary of Dun Bradstreet, which was a big data company. So I went from being a product manager to a chief product officer type role, focused on data, focused on analytics, focused on selling of data. I'm not going to give you the entire story here, but to make fast forward, I've been involved in data and analytics for all of 30 years. Half of my focus, though, has been product management and building great products, which is a very kind of different approach for a lot of the people in the data world. You don't hear a lot of data people who have like previous experience as a chief product officer, which I do, but I've built data product teams. I've hired product managers. I've written more BRDs and PRDs than I could probably ever remember. I've done more user-centric design sessions. I've done the sessions where you're standing over somebody's shoulder and you're watching them click on things or not click on things. I've built wireframes, done the whole product thing, but ended up focusing on my current path after I decided I made a very specific career decision, and at the time a lot of people thought it was dumb, which was I decided to get out of people management, and it was a very conscious decision. I was on a people management track. I was a chief product officer, and then I pivoted into IT. I was leading an IT function. I had a multi-million-dollar budget. I had a team of over 60 people. And when that ride kind of stopped, as it were, I decided I wanted to get out of people leadership because I wanted to focus on what could best be called kind of thought leadership. I wanted to be an individual contributor, not because I didn't enjoy teaching people or leading teams, which I did. I loved it. I just thought that I'd have more impact as an individual contributor and I'd have a better quality of life. And that I'd make almost as much money, not as much money, but almost as much money as an individual contributor, being the person that advises CDOs and CIOs and CEOs. That's what I decided that I wanted to be. I wanted to be an advisor in this space because I got to the point where I'd kind of done it all. I'd managed the teams, I'd built the teams, I'd recruited the teams, I've got a product background, I've got a data background. And I determined that I wanted to be an individual contributor, and I did. Went to work for Gartner. It was awesome. And here I am now. So that's the long version of the probably rambling version of my career arc, but it started in product, went into people leadership. I decided I wanted to be an individual contributor, wanted to be a thought leader. I wanted to do what I'm doing now. And I can't thank Profisee enough for allowing me to do that, and for DATAVERSITY and others to give me a stage to share what I know. And it's been an amazing ride. I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Visit dataversity.net and expand your knowledge with thousands of articles and blogs written by industry experts, plus free live and on-demand webinars covering the complete data management spectrum. While you're there, subscribe to the weekly newsletter so you'll never miss a beat.
Another story I think of, a data person pulling their curiosity and following their passion, and choosing passion over what you think is you should be doing, right? Or what a career may demand that you do, right? Or that's more money, or the bigger title, or I love it. I love that you are reaching for the skies and where you want to go, and what feels right to you. So I do want to back it up a little bit. So you, first of all, I love that you had a passion for Legos. I can totally understand that passion. But when you switched to business, you majored initially in business. Why business?
Well, it was anything but dentistry. So my father's a dentist, my uncle's a dentist, my grandfather's a dentist. Like, my grandfather was a small town dentist, like with the black bag, traveling around from town to town, getting paid in eggs. And
Nice.
so I come from this family of dentists and healthcare providers. So my aunt is an orthopedic surgeon. My uncle is an orthopedic surgeon. My one aunt is a psychiatrist. Like a real long history of like healthcare providers and professionals in my family. Kind of the family business, believe it or not, healthcare, right? With a strong focus on dentistry. And I for whatever reason, Shannon, what I'm about to say, I view kind of actually fondly. I don't view this negatively. I've always been about the money. When it comes to my career, I'm very mercenary, right? I have somehow, and call it artful, call it happenstance. I think it's probably both, but I've been able to navigate what I think. I mean, I don't know. I'm not out there talking about salaries, and I'm not obsessing about salaries. But I've built a comfortable life, and I've built a very secure life, and which is good. And I've been able to do it in a way that I love what I do, right? So I'm so lucky and I'm so blessed, and I know that a lot of it is hard work, and I know a lot of it is focus. I know a lot of it is making the right choices and picking the right boss and picking the right companies and all of that stuff. But then I know also a lot of it is also completely out of my hands, and somehow, some way, I don't know how. And looking back, it's all kind of come together. Now, it's sure I've made some good choices. I've taken some risks. I moved from my comfort zone in Canada to a place that I knew nothing about, Central Florida, to go to school in the University of Florida. I mean, I've taken some risks. I went to work as a call center agent making peanuts. I've taken multiple risks. I pivoted from product management to IT management. I pivoted from people leadership to individual leadership. So I've taken some risks, but like, I don't know, man. I may not have won the lottery, but I've won the lottery.
Yeah. No, I definitely always have had that vibe from you. And so studying business was just more of a, I'm going to
go make money.
Yeah,
no,
go
seriously.
make money. Yeah.
When you're 20 years old, I chose to go to business school. Actually, I would have been 18, right? So, good grief. The 18-year-old version of me, I was just like, let's go make some money. And so that's what I thought you did. If you want to make money, you go to business school. And maybe it's not a bad choice. But and now the 57-year-old version of me is looking back, and that's not what it's about. It's not about making money. For me, it's about solving problems.
I love it.
Be useful, solve hard problems. And maybe that's why I stumbled into MDM, because it's a hard problem to solve. And the harder the problem, that's if there's one thing that I could tell people about maybe, and I don't know this to be true, but if for whatever success I've had, it's because I've been willing to run into the burning building. Right, like metaphorically speaking, I'm not a firefighter. I'm not a first responder. There's nowhere near valiant. That level of valiance doesn't exist in me. But when it comes to like, go to the hard problem, go where people don't necessarily want to go. The harder the problem, the more I'm attracted to it. And that has served me well.
You mentioned early on too that you were, working for a company that sells data as a product, right?
Yeah.
So, so when you were in that role, did you understand that that's what you were selling, and how did you get others to understand that data was a product?
Well, when data is your product, like it's easy. Right? Everybody knows that's your product. When you work for a company like Dun Bradstreet, and which I did for I had 2 tours of duty at D&B over the span of close to a decade. You know that's your product, right? And it could be Experian, it could be Axiom, it could be Epsilon, it could be Moody's, it could be, I mean, the list of data providers there's zillions of them out there. When you work for a company that is your product, I mean, it's just kind of known, right? There's no like, what's a data product? What's data as a product, right? There's none of that silliness that we're hearing today around people getting really wrapped around the axle about how do I define a product? Because when data is your product, right, it's the unit of sale. And sometimes it's a raw material, and sometimes it's a finished good. Sometimes it's actually the thing that goes into a dashboard, and sometimes it's the dashboard. Sometimes it's an API. Sometimes it's the field in the API, right? And when you're selling all of it, right? When you're selling all of it, when you're selling a field of data, or where you're selling an API connector, or well, you're selling a report, which D&B would do all the time. They'd sell credit reports, right? Sometimes they would sell the finished good. Sometimes they would sell the raw materials. Both are products. Both are fine. Both can generate revenue because both are solving specific problems that customers are willing to pay for. That's a data product. And when you're in that business, and you're managing those products, you just kind of get it. And part of the reason you get it is because you're a trained product manager. You've come up through the ranks of product management, not data and analytics. And I'm not saying that negatively. Data and analytics people most certainly can be great product managers. Of course they can. But when you come up from a training background and experience of product management, you don't spend any time wondering and worrying and ruminating about what's a product. We do, because we're librarians. Right? We do because we ruminate on the definition of things. We ruminate on semantics because it's the core of our DNA in the data world. And where two things can't be the same thing at the same time. It either has to be a 0 or a 1, right? It has to fall somewhere in the Dewey Decimal System. It has to fall cleanly in this classification. And if it doesn't fall cleanly in the classification, our brain starts to catch fire. And I think that's like with this debates about data products these days. It'd be like, well, is it this or is it this? And it can't be, but it's product managers don't get hung up on that stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I ask, because it does give you a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps you to I think it gives you a view of the data through a totally different lens that really is helpful, that I'm sure that a lot of your customers and a lot of executives benefit from. So, Malcolm, having worked with data so long in your career now, so what is your definition of data?
Data is a modeled representation of reality. Right? I mean, I think that's kind of it. Right? It's modeled for sure, right? It is an attempt to replicate a reality after the fact, right? And that reality is generally represented in some sort of transaction or some sort of insight or some sort of kind of running narrative of the things that happen, but it's an attempt to represent reality. Right? Some reality at some point in time. And to do that, we have to create a model, which means that it's not ever going to be perfect, right? Because all models are flawed, right? Inherently, all models are flawed, but some are better than others. So it's certainly a model. It's certainly representation of something else. It's certainly an attempt to duplicate something else, which is, the reality that it was experienced in the past. I mean, that's my definition of data. It's probably not a very clean one, but
No, it's great, and very insightful. And how are you currently working with data in your job? I mean, aside from talking about it with your customers, how are you using it?
Oh gosh. Well, every day,
Sure.
every day in different formats in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So a big part of what I do is focus on LinkedIn because I've created a large community of people on LinkedIn and I interact with them through LinkedIn. I'm providing best practices, providing insights. So I am looking at some of the trailing indicators in LinkedIn, like engagement rates and like impressions and like clicks, and I get reports every day about my engagement on LinkedIn. I use a platform called Shield Analytics, which kind of gives you summaries of what's happening on LinkedIn. So I'm looking at what's working and what's not working. I'm getting feedback from people on our team about what's working and what's not working from a content perspective outside of LinkedIn. I do white papers, I do blogs, we do webinars. Everything that I do, everything that I do in my role, interestingly, is actually tied to some broader marketing activity, right? That is tied to some broader campaign. We'll do events where I go speak at an event, and that we consider that a campaign, right? So sometimes we'll sponsor, sometimes we don't, sometimes it's just me. But we're creating campaigns in Salesforce all the time where we are tracking activity against that campaign. So if somebody, maybe we sponsor an event like a wonderful DATAVERSITY event, and somebody comes up to the booth and starts talking with me, I'll track that data. So everything I do, all of my activities, literally everything that I do day in and day out is tied back to some idea of a campaign that we're managing in Salesforce, which we can then attribute marketing effort towards. Right? Sometimes that's a sponsorship. Sometimes it is me just speaking. Sometimes it's a webinar, right? Like what you all are doing right now. Everything that I do is tied to data. So, am I data driven? Yeah. Could I be more data driven? I'm sure I could be. Marketing data is not without its flaws. There's multiple touches in any sort of campaign, right? Can we attribute one thing that I did, one speech that I gave, one white paper that I give to X dollars of revenue? Nope, can't, right? But we know when I'm involved, and we can confidently say that I have some influence. This is another reason why I kind of get really wound up when I hear data people say, "Oh, you can't measure the value of data." There's no way, because how do you know it was the data? Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was a bright sunny day. Maybe it was, the data leader or the business person happened to be in a good mood that day. Maybe it was, how do you know that it was the elimination of that duplicate record that did that? Well, tell me any one area of our business other than sales. Tell me one where you can draw a hard causal line between any activity and more money in the bank. Can an HR person tell you that an investment in a employee reimbursement for sporting goods, we have one. I've got to find 500 ways to spend some money on some sporting goods by the end of the year. Can somebody in HR say that improves employee retention? Can they say with certainty that it improves company output and company productivity? No, they can't. Can somebody in marketing tell you that a dollar spent on a banner ad, was the reason that this company actually invested in your product? No, they can't. Right? And on and on and on. I mean, everything in our business runs on models. Everything in our business runs on the attempt to attribute activity A to outcome B. And data is not alone. It's not perfect, but we certainly can model and start to build some of these models that would give us relative confidence that, hey, the things that I did with data are driving real business returns. And that's the same is true with my activities day in and day out as an evangelist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes maybe it's even easier with data to tie into results.
Well, because the results you're driving are based on KPIs, numerators, denominators, right?
Yeah.
Days, number of total invoice value versus days outstanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amount spent on your materials, the number of days that material is sitting unused. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. All of our business is running on KPIs, and all of those KPIs are based on data, and all of that data has quality standards that you can enforce. So anyway, yes, I'm with you. Sorry, it's one of my pet peeves. I mean, I can ruminate about business value of data all day long.
So tell me, Malcolm, do you see the importance of data management and the number of jobs working with data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years, and why?
Increasing. Increasing. The short answer is something called Jevons paradox, which is the idea of induced demand, right? So I'll answer this in through kind of a story. How many times have you been in your local neighborhood where they're doing road construction and they're widening from 2 lanes to 3 lanes, right? And the minute they open up that 3rd lane, it's still gridlocked. That's called induced demand. And this is the exact same thing that we are going to see in the world of data and analytics, right? The more we figure out how to govern unstructured data for Gen AI, the more people are going to want to use Gen AI. The more we figure out how to provide high quality, trusted, accurate data, well stewarded, well governed data, the better we do at that, the more people are going to want of it. We are just scratching the tip of the iceberg in terms of the amount of data we could be governing, mastering, stewarding. Right? Gartner estimates that 70 to 90% of all data in organizations is largely unstructured and largely ignored. Right? When we start to focus on that giant mountain of data that is sitting in email servers, that is sitting in SharePoint servers, that is sitting all in PDFs, CAD files, websites, HTML files, when we start to focus on that, and when we make that trustworthy and insightful, right? And when we start using that to fuel decisions in Gen AI, people will want, I want more of that. I want more of that. So in the short term, there will be disruptions. Companies will, and this is always how it works in corporate America. It always is. Like there's this whipsaw. There will be, the pendulum will swing one way, and everybody will think, oh, I can automate data modeling, I can automate data quality, and I can automate MDM. And what they will figure out very, very quickly. We saw this with outsourcing. We saw this with big data. We see it every 4 to 5 years. That pendulum will come swinging right back. And I think we're actually in a bit of that pendulum swing right now, which was craze around Gen AI. Hey, this thing, Gen AI is amazing. Productivity gains are going to be through the roof. The money's going to be falling from the sky. And now people, it's swinging back. They're like, oh man, this hallucination thing is real. I can't predict how this thing is going to act, right? I can't build data quality rules around this thing because it is probabilistic. Right? There's all of these challenges from a governance and quality perspective for Gen AI. And now I think we're seeing this swing back. And what we're going to see out of all of that is, hey, data people, help me out here. Help me out. How do I govern all of this unstructured data? How do I build rules around these highly probabilistic systems, right? How do we find a happy middle ground between Gen AI has lost its mind and moving slow as a tortoise, right? And kind of the legacy things that we've always been doing and the status quo and business as usual. We've got to find a way to navigate that path. And I think that in the immediate term, 5 to 10 years, it'll be a great time to be a data analytics professional. A great time. It's a great time to get into this business. It's a great time to be in this business because our business leaders need us.
Yes, indeed. I couldn't agree more. And so, Malcolm, what advice would you give to people looking to get into a career in data management?
Oh, great question. Number one, be curious, right? Number 2, solve problems. Just be focused on solving problems. The flip side of solving problems is the delivery of value. Go find people that just be focused relentlessly on solving problems. Number 3, be customer focused. Call your stakeholders customers. Be relentless about a desire to help our customers in the business. Those are 3. I mean, don't be afraid to start at the bottom. I did. I started in a call center making $7 an hour. Don't be afraid to start at the bottom, right? Don't be afraid to go learn some things at the grassroots. Don't be afraid to become a data steward. Don't be afraid to take on the data governance mantle, even though other people have told you it will be a recipe for madness, right? Don't run into the building that everybody else is running out of, right? Data governance is not going away. We need to figure it out. It's not going away. Data quality, not going away. We need to figure it out. We need to figure out all of this stuff in the context of AI. Tons of opportunities out there. So be curious, be willing to take some risks. Are saying they don't want to do. Like, go do data stewardship, go do data governance, go learn some of this stuff, right? Just dive in. Are there opportunities around being a data scientist? Of course, but I suck at math. I don't know about you, but I mean, I suck at math. I'd be the world's worst data scientist, right? Are there opportunities around data engineering? Absolutely. If you're a little more technical, go that route. Go the data engineering route. Go learn Python. Go learn a coding language. Yes, a lot of this will be automated, but we still need people who understand how these systems work, right? So just go be curious, go do the work that other people don't want to do, and just focus on this, what I call a growth mindset. I talk about it in my book. Grow and grow and grow and grow and be curious and be innovative, and good things will follow. Trust me, they will follow.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with you there. And like you say, I mean, you don't have to be technical. There's so many different areas in data that you can jump in on.
One thing I should note as well is go learn the business, right? Mm-hmm. Like go learn whatever. If you get a data and analytics role, right? Maybe you are building some dashboards. Maybe you are a data steward. Maybe you get into the field of governance, but go sit and learn how those business processes work. Procure to pay, quote to cash. Go figure out if you're concerned about the quality of data coming out of your CRM system, go sit down with people in sales and figure out how they're creating data, how they're using data. Go sit down with people in marketing ops about how they're creating campaigns and about how they're tracking leads and how they're tracking prospects. Go learn those business processes. That's the ability to traverse from business to technology and go back and forth and know why what you're seeing in your CRM may be low data quality, know why people are creating, -A after your customer name every time you create a new customer rec in your CRM. Why are they doing stuff like that may on the surface look bad? Go figure out why. Be as much of a business analyst as you are a data analyst. Sorry, I had to add that on because that's
no, it's. I do think that's where so many people get stuck. So I do appreciate you adding that on. That they forget that question, why?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and it's easy to fall into a trap of, wow, it's my job as a data steward to make sure that the data quality coming out of our CRM is good, so our analytics are correct. It's easy to fall into the trap of when you look at that data, it's like, man, this is a mess. They don't care about data quality. They don't care about how hard they're making my job. They don't care about downstream impacts, right? Them. Be careful. Be careful, right? One of the things about embracing a growth mindset is that you need to see positive intentions in others, right? You need to understand why people are doing what they're doing in the systems, why they're adding silly, what things that would otherwise look dumb in a customer record in Salesforce. When you understand why, what you will learn is that everybody has limited time. Everybody's doing the best that they absolutely positively can, and nobody's trying to make your job worse. Nobody's trying to make your job harder. They just have different incentives, right? And they've got different constraints than what you have. So that like empathy, as in the data role, empathy is so critical. And many of us have fallen into the trap of just pointing the finger at the business and saying they don't care, when in reality, they do care. They just care about different things.
Right. So important to be curious and have that understanding. Yeah. And as you say, empathy.
Yep.
Well, Malcolm, this has been such a pleasure chatting with you today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm passionate, obviously. It probably comes through. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about sharing what I do, and I'm passionate about the next generation of data leaders and people who may be watching this or interested maybe in a career. It's not too late. This is a great industry with some wonderful human beings in it. You cannot go wrong by learning about data and analytics and by joining this great industry.
Hey, right. I talk about it all the time about how lucky I am to work with this amazing community who is so supportive, so helpful with each other.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, Malcolm, thank you. And if I would be remiss if I didn't ask, if somebody wanted to learn more about Profisee, where would they go?
That's easy. Profisee.com, Profisee. not C-Y-I-S-E-E, Profisee.com. Of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm sharing insights, white papers, blogs every day. Check out my book on Amazon. It's the Data Hero Playbook. I'd be thrilled with that. Let's connect somehow, some way. I'm happy to continue to share what I know with you.
Thank you so much. And we will get those links posted to the podcast page with the recording. So Malcolm, again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Shannon.
Oh, and to all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to keep up to date in the latest in data management education and in the latest in podcasts, you can go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, everyone. Thank you for listening to DataVersity Talks, a podcast brought to you by DataVersity. Subscribe to our newsletter for podcast updates and information about our free educational webinars at dataversity.net/subscribe.